सरफराज, आपने तरंग मेंशन किया. I think what would be really helpful to understand, आपने ये green project था, which is Anglo Foods, right? And you started and you built it, and eventually it was sold. 51% shares were sold to Freestyle Campina for $500 million.
Yeah.
It's a great achievement. So आज अगर कोई अपना ये greenfield project लगाना चाहे पाकिस्तान में, invest करना चाहे, again आप क्या tips देंगे?
So, there's a lot of things which have changed. There was a lot of capex behind Anglo Foods. So, I'm not sure I'm giving the figures, but let's put it this way: the valuation was 5 times the capex and the money spent in advertising, etc. When we sold it, when Anglo sold it, I say we, जो कि मैं avoid करता हूँ generally, माफ खैर. I do identify with Anglo Foods. तो capex बहुत था, because I'm relating it back to the price, which people know, which is in the market. You don't need to go out and spend so much money nowadays. Things have changed. Advertising has changed. You've been in industry, you know that. A lot of it has become much cheaper. The capex side has changed, and what I would again say is there are huge changes taking place on the social media side, on the visibility side of consumer goods. There's a lot of stuff taking place in terms of technology, even in the retail space and the banking space. All these things, you don't need to invest that much upfront. And I know so many young people who have come out of the Unilevers, the Nestle's, the Pepsi's and Cokes of this world, and now they're doing around the periphery of the consumer business and the banking related business, fintech. They're doing little projects, very little expenditure upfront, but knowledge of technology and how to wield it, and they actually have made a lot of money, mashallah, and a name for themselves. Some of them are very young colleagues. They feel very good about it. I won't name them because they're private individuals. But I can think at least 5 से 7 तो मैं ऐसे जानता हूँ personally, who were in those sort of situations, who are now very well off and doing very good businesses. I think that's the route to take mostly for startups today. किसी को ये एडवाइस मुझे चाहिए हो तो आप भेजिएगा मेरे पास, मैं बता दूंगा. I've been sort of advising people. There are at least 8 or 10 projects which are being done by young people.
Excellent. But just one thing building on to this, because आपने mention किया, so I understand the capex requirement is different and depending, right? Greenfield project किस हद तक है, startup है कि large company. But what was also very unique during your time was the culture of the organization, Anglo Foods का, right? So उस पे थोड़ा सा अगर आज किसी कोई अपनी कंपनी सेटअप करना चाह रहे हैं, कोई GM है, आप क्या एडवाइस देंगे कि कौन से कल्चर के सॉफ्टवेयर पार्ट्स है 2-3 that you feel create a better happy environment?
Okay, so you guys are both HR people, so employee engagement is the basis nowadays, at least, of making people connect and do relevant work, successful work. If you make someone feel that this is their own business and they work passionately and pour the inside out, you won the goal. And obviously then, teamwork happens. I've actually, I used to be a blog writer in the last year. I've sort of withdrawn because of my present position and I don't do that. So on sarfaraz.ar.wordpress, I have a blog called Making a Real Organization. I can probably send it to you also, Faria, if you want the thing. And that really relates back to how I at least think organizations can be made, which are sort of real and functional and do the same sort of work which has been done in Anglo Foods. By the way, I saw the same thing in Shaukat Khanama. I was on the board and it was really the engagement of the workers into the project which made it successful. So, a lot of it is relating to happen the way it was. When I met Asad, and at that time I decided I'll do CSR work, do a little bit of consultancy and do, CSR stuff. And Asad se main mila, so he said, "Tum kharch ho jaoge, 10 saal tumhe lagenge reputation banane mein." I'd been out of Pakistan for quite a while. So that was the point. And he said, "Look, you want impact, no? If you want impact, why don't you come here, do this? And the rural areas will open up. Education aa jayegi, thoda paisa aa jayega. और न्यूट्रिशन के भी एस्पेक्ट्स हैं एंड फिर इस तरीके से तुम कर लो अपना CSR and it sort of made sense and that's what then drove the way Engro Food happened. Obviously then one hires the team in the same thought process, the same image, इस तरीके के लोग हैं who are ready to go on a limb and do this rather than just think of their own careers. So I had a lot of people who were just crazy about Engro Foods. मैंने तो ज़्यादा काम नहीं किया. I can tell you, I used to roam the corridors, talk, and let's go out and show we can do these things. And these Pakistani people जो कि बेचारे बड़े अफसरदा रहते हैं. I've seen that. उनके लिए outlet क्या है कि पाकिस्तान के क्रिकेट टीम बड़ा अच्छा कर ले जिस दिन तो खुश हो जाते हैं. So this was a big thing, and then this Pakistani drove the company for several years. कि अच्छा हम ये करेंगे, पाकिस्तान की करेंगे, नाम रोशन होगा तो फिर देखेंगे पाकिस्तान से बाहर भी दे. So that was.
Thank you, and I agree that nationalism always wins. Talat.
Sarfaraz, thank you so much. Extremely inspiring stories and the impact, and I think that's what makes great leadership: the ability to impact those not so well off, the ability to impact social change, whether it's working for a company or an entrepreneur. And I think you clearly at Engro, you gave us several examples that showed that you did a lot of that. It also seems apparently abundant, Sarfaraz, that you read a lot and you seem to be an avid reader. Am I correct?
I used to be. आजकल तो I just think energy and fertilizer at the moment. Last year or so, but yeah, I used to read a lot. And we still have a library, my wife and myself, कुछ 400-500 किताबें तो अभी भी. And
That's
this is
amazing.
after several moments where we have given away some of our. जब मैं UK गया था तो मैंने जब पढ़ने तो यहाँ की किताबें सब दे दी थी. फिर वो UK से जब आ रहा था तो वो किताबें सब दे दी थी. तो ये
तो आप मुझे एक ऐसे किताब के बारे में बताएं या ऑडियंस को बताएं. The one book, if you had to pick just one book, and I know it's so difficult, it's like having to pick your favorite movie, right? So what's that one book that you would pick that has had maybe the greatest impact on your thinking, your life? You change something, you change your thought process. So can you tell us about any one such book?
So typically, if it wasn't related to my life alone, I would have said Lord of the Rings, because it's got a huge social message of the little man fighting against all the odds in the world and looking at the world from a little man's eye. But I would let that go because that might not be appropriate to what happened to me in my career. I'll just tell you one other name, and I've done a couple of talks on this. I don't know if you've read Smiley's People.
No, I haven't.
John le Carre, who died recently.
Oh yeah, John le Carre. Yes, of course. I haven't read that particular one though. Yes.
So okay, Smiley's People is where Smiley is near the end of his career and he's going through difficulties, personal and work related, and he's handling an event where things come out right after against all the odds. A career of almost 40-45 years, having been beaten and now sort of passed away. Success has passed him by. He's suddenly turned it around, and one of the little parts of that book has actually affected me, and then I've talked about it a few times. So there's a little part in the book where this lady, Maria Rogova, who's walking in Paris. She's an old lady, and she's left USSR 30 years before to escape. And as she's left, she's left her 6-month-old daughter behind to escape. So that stayed with her all her life. And she's walking one day in Émigré, Paris, wandering along, old lady, and this man who she immediately recognizes as the type, not necessarily the person, but the type, comes, walks up to her and says, Maria Rogova, your daughter is in severe problems. You might be better off coming and talking to us. And she recognizes the type, that's the KGB. And as she's going to sit and talk to him and hear what, she knows now that she's trapped. Because here is, the guilt trap plus the fear, etc., etc. And she says something which I read 37 years ago, and I didn't understand. It took me a decade or so to understand. And she says, God help me from the weak. The strong I can handle. It's the weak I need God's help to be able to handle them. And so the meaning of that was that it's the strong people generally have character, they have a value system, and they do not overreach. It's the weak ones who will use their authority, who will, probably subdue people junior to them, and really rule the roost through power. And at that time it didn't really, but as I went through my own career, I actually saw examples of that. The ones who used to rage in office generally and play politics and cut others out were generally the weakest of the lot. They always had something in the background which used to cause that to happen. And I've forever, since then, the younger people who have reported to me or have come in my sort of purview in one way or the other, I've always said, if you want a good life, you have to kill fear and apprehension. It's the single biggest important thing, for me at least, in life. If you can get rid of that, you're able to stand on your feet. And life will generally support you. It doesn't look like it, but it will support you.
Fantastic. That was a really nice story. Thank you so much, Sarfaraz. We are running out of time, but has anything last minute you want to add?
To thank you. Thank you, Sarfaraz. Thank you for, and I loved the story, the ending. I think it's just perfect. So thank you so much, and do share the links or the link of your blog.
Will do.
Take care, Sarfaraz.
Shukriya,
thank you, both of you.
Thank you so much.
Nice meeting you, Talat.
Thank you. Nice to meet you, Sarfaraz. Take care.
Hafiz.
Hafiz ji.
Hafiz.
Hafiz.